Next up is Terry Boss, who is the Senior Vice President of Environment, Safety, and Operations for the Interstate Natural Gas Association of America. And let's see if we can find his... There you go, Terry.
Thank you very much, Carl. As Ivan said, I tried to put a little bit more positive spin on it here. So we're always looking for improvement on these sort of things. Appreciate being here. I don't know if I've missed one or two of these. If quite active on these, so it's appreciated here. I'm going to be talking more statistically what's happening out there. I'm getting kind of a twofer out of this. Ivan was looking for some probability to give the companies and so on like that, and we've done quite a bit of work, so maybe this will answer some of the questions that are moving forward. Who is INGAA? We're the Interstate Pipeline Association that represents large diameter, high pressure natural gas transmission pipelines that transport it across the states, and this is a configuration of the mapping of that typical type situation. Since 2010, we've had this commitment with our members, the guiding principles for safety going for 0 incidents, and you can see another circle chart of basically do, act, and move forward type of thing. But we're very committed to that, whether the regulation is out there or not. We realize our business and our neighbors that we operate on the pipelines depend on us, and we're very proactive on moving forward on those. I wanted to first do some basics out here because a lot of statistics have been flipped out at you, and sometimes it's hard to be sure what significant is, what's insignificant, and what inter is and what intra is. This is the typical eventing reporting process that goes into PHMSA. So everybody that's a gas transmission operator needs to report those things. So at the bottom, there's a lot of little leaks out there. Those are unintentional leaks that happen, and below a certain volume level, nobody gets hurt. There's no property damage per se on those. Those have to be reported on an annual report. Reportable incidents, move it up to a level of where you have to have about a 17-page report on each one of these incidents and describe it. Significant is when it hits up to a certain dollar limit. Compared to $1984, and then serious incidents is when you have an injury or a fatality. So first I'll talk about the leaks that have been occurring. And again, on these lines, we've got the dates on the bottom, and we've got the number of incidents on there. So at the largest amount of data that we've got coming in under these reports with leaks, and that helps with statistical correlations on these things, we've had a declining results of the work that we've been doing in the pipeline industry, and this reflects the period of the integrity management program formally set up under the PHMSA regulations from around 2002 forward. And you can see there's a pretty good reduction on the corrosion leaks on that, and that follows on a reduction before we even got to this period, so we're doing pretty good on that. So why is this kind of occurring? Some discussions were made about direct assessment in ILI. Our members have to do a lot of ILI inspection on these sort of things. So this is the mileage that is underneath some kind of IM inspection program with ILI type devices primarily. And you can see this is up through 2015, so we're constantly expanding the mileage that we're talking about doing some kind of IM inspections. As Carl mentioned, the mileage that's specifically regulated under the PHMSA program is about 6% of the mileage. So you can see we're going significantly above what's going on, and those are some of the statistics we're going to be talking about here. So jumping up to the next level of reporting, this is where you have an incident form. This is typically called the 30-day incident report. And by the way, all this information is on PHMSA's website, so you can get into the details on that. I'm going to be talking about that. This kind of gives you a scorecard, and it doesn't quite come out to, it's washed out a little bit. But basically, this is the number of reportable incidents, that are in high consequence areas, that 6 to 7% that Carl was talking about that's covered in that area for the given years, and it's broken down by the causes, the main causes of the accidents on there. What I tried to do was, after the baseline period, which is around 2011, 2012, right there where it ends, beyond that, that's where we went through and did the baseline under a standardized process under the companies that are doing that. And I highlighted two out there that seem to be higher than normal after that baseline did occur, and it's equipment related and weather related and outside force damage. I just wanted to highlight from that data on there. Oops. Okay, now I'll jump to significant incidents. You've heard the word significant. This is when you raise up to that $50,000 level. The important thing to note is that there is quite a few, not as many incidents in the significant category, so it makes it harder to statistically analyze it, especially when you get to serious incidents, when you get ones and twos out there to do that. When you look at significant incidents, and I jump very, very quickly to equipment related type damages. As you understand, ILI devices and direct assessment and hydrostatic tests don't necessarily cover these kinds of failures that are going on. And this was a particular event that was climbing up in the significant category, and we want to look at it in more detail and understand what's really going on that. And what we're seeing in these reports, due to the reporting criteria on that, there's a predominance of relief valve reports on this. This is where the relief valve actually vents out through the vent where it's supposed to vent, and it's being reported. Many other reports, so there really wasn't a leak or rupture, but there was a release on gas. Companies do have the option of reporting this information if they think it's a significant event, and PHMSA wants to know if there's a significant event going on because maybe people heard some noise or something like that. So the important thing here is that also we've got some injuries involved in some of this on the equipment. Somebody's tightening a tubing fitting or something like that, and the tubing fitting breaks and that person gets hurt. These are the kinds of accidents that we're talking about on here. But the thing I'm trying to emphasize on here, as you move through this integrity management process or the safety management system, things change. All of a sudden, events that were not high priority, like the corrosion sort of things, started popping up as the things you need to focus on. And so this is focusing that equipment-related causes are really starting to show up on there. Jumping up to serious incidents, this is when you have injuries and fatalities on the thing. A pitch for PHMSA's new website. I did a snapshot out of this. Very good website if you want to go in and look at statistical data and dive into. It was talked about this morning, but I did a snapshot out of this morning. You can see that the serious incident rate, so this is per 1,000 miles, has been going down. Obviously, since there's very few incidents on there, 1 or 2 incidents can make a significant difference on what's going on there. A way to look at this is also by the causes, and since serious involved injuries or fatalities, diving into that and looking at these details is very illustrative sometimes on these things. Here we broke out not only the injuries that did occur per event, but was it an employee or a contractor, or was it the public that got involved as the injury or a fatality? And you can see there's a difference on there. Obviously, we got the tragic event that happened at PG&E when we had the San Bruno incident and stuff like that, and shows that. But what I wanted to highlight again was the excavation damage and whether an outside force. Sorry to say that we just had had a excavation damage incident last week. It's not reflected in these statistics, but it just reminds everybody the vulnerability of what goes on if things aren't done right. So I wanted to highlight those on there. So these are kind of 3 different ways of looking at the data and statistics on that to help inform probabilities of what we should be focusing on. So looking at this data, standing back and saying, okay, really, what needs to be improved on integrity management? You've heard over and over and over again. We still need to work on excavation damage protection. We still have mistakes being made on that. People aren't doing things right, and we've got to be very, very diligent on that. We think we have been very effective on integrity management. If you can use ILI tools, come up with new ILI tools that got new ways, motive forces, so they can go through lines they couldn't go through before, or they're more flexible to do it. We think it's very positive, and agree with Ivan, the work that we did with him. If you can get some different kinds of sensors, different kinds of processes, you can really expand your venue of what you can do to understand what is going on in your pipeline and how to prevent it. Standardized safety management systems. Folks have had management systems out there. As Chris mentioned, we've been doing a lot of this. We're going more towards a standardized process. And one thing that integrity management and IMP was all out there was being sure you had the right process. Safety management system says you've built a culture and to be sure that the individual is doing his job correctly and he knows it and he's bought into the process. So it's a very integral part of getting the process married up with the buy-in on that process so that nothing gets dropped in there. The ability to understand and manage outside forces. This is another thing called interactive threats. What we're now seeing as we're getting corrosion under control, yes, we understand there's equipment damage going out there, but what we're seeing is we're seeing forces, be there natural forces, landslides, et cetera, that are actually pulling very, very hard on this equipment or pipe. And understanding those relationships and how they interact with what's going on, or cars running into facilities and so on like that. We need to have a better understanding of that. And it's not real clear. There is research going on that, but clearly we need to understand that better. And then obviously what we're trying to do here is monitor failure trends for new or changing challenges. Obviously as we work on one problem and tamp it on down, something else shows up over here, or there may actually be some change out there. And we've got to be diligent to understand those sort of things and understand when something new comes up there, what's really going on. So that'll be it. Are we on time?
Thank you, Terry.